everyone, welcome back on Igniting Minds, the Power of Knowledge. On Women's Day 2024, we have very special guests. Guess what? Now, this is the technology world, right? Digital world. So we have Cindy with us, who is more professional, more on that side, who gonna give more insight to us, where all our women, we can get into more powerful on a digital learning. So hi, Cindy. First of all, thank you so much for joining us and taking time, your precious time. I would like to know more about you and your experience. How did you get into the, digital world, and what was your experience? If you can start with your introduction.
Sure. Well, thank you very much, Rupal, for having me today. My name is Cindy Gallatin. I'm Chief Strategy Officer at the University of New Haven.
Mhm.
I oversee digital learning initiatives here, and I've been at the university for about 4 years now.
Mhm.
Prior to that, I've been in other universities over the last 25 years, and I've also been in various sales and marketing positions prior to that. My digital interest really evolved over time. In the past 25 years, I became interested in teaching and learning. And I got very interested many years ago in educational technology and how we can better use technology in the classroom to help facilitate learning
Mhm.
and not using it for technology's sake.
Mhm.
And so in the early days, a lot of the tools were not very sophisticated. We were trying different things. Nowadays, there are lots of different educational technology tools that can help facilitate learning.
So, what kind of technology tools?
So we have our baseline tool at our university. We use a learning management system, which many institutions use.
Mhm.
We use a Canvas. And what Canvas does is it helps facilitate learning in that it provides structure for all of our content.
Mhm.
And so just from a basic organizational perspective, it helps to have a infrastructure or platform
Mhm.
that allows us to distribute content and really engage students and also provide students with a platform where they really can own their learning. So it's not so much a faculty member who is just disseminating information.
Mhm.
It's leveraging the platform
Mhm.
to share information and utilize that in the teaching process.
Mhm.
So we have tools like the learning management system. We have tools that provide short videos to students, and conversely, students can use videos as part of their assessments.
Mhm.
We have discussion forums where students can provide and have interactive, thoughtful discussions. And so we're looking at different tools that really help facilitate the classroom, whether it's on campus, hybrid, or completely online.
Okay. So how did you came up with the idea of digital learning? Where like you started evolving, it's more like a face-to-face. People were like earlier, they are more comfortable to have like face-to-face meeting or interacting with physically to professor and show their interest. But how it's affecting, and how did you first like get the
Sure.
interest and get into that?
So I'm going to go back a ways.
Mhm.
And back in the 90s, I was teaching and I was part of a faculty team that was piloting how to use computers in the classroom. And we were going to we were distributing the computers to students.
Okay.
It was laptops,
Mhm.
but every student had to have their laptop. And so as we were encouraging students for this format, we had to make sure that our teaching was leveraging the technology and they weren't just buying them for the sake of buying them.
Correct.
So I got interested in technology and teaching, and I was working with somebody who was going to be a dean of this department, and it was a new department called academic technology.
Okay.
And so I talked to him, and he was going to hire me. But while I was interviewing, the CIO said to me, "We want to start online learning,
Uh-huh.
and we want a marketing person, not just a technology person."
Correct.
So at the time, I finished the interview, and my colleague, who was going to be the dean of this department, said, "How did the interview go?" And I said, "Well, to be honest, I think it went okay. But while I was speaking to him, he talked to me about an online university, and this was back in 1999. And I said, "There's no infrastructure, there's no platform. You have faculty who aren't using email, and back then we had dial-up." I said, "I'd have to be crazy to take that job."
Okay.
So what I did is I came on board and I said, "Look, I'll start in the academic technology job, but while I'm doing that, I'll research how we could do online learning at the university." And 3 months later, I went back and I said, "Well, I have 2 full-time jobs. I think I know how we can make online learning work." And a year later, I launched it with 250 students, 13 faculty members, and 12 courses.
Wow.
And when I left there 18 years later, there were 3,000 students online, 1,100 students in programs. So basically a third of the
That's
university.
A significant number.
So I kind of got into it by really from my teaching perspective and my interest in teaching in technology. So I was a very early adapter and started their beginnings of their online university in 2001.
So what I'm pretty much sure you must have focused like on the opportunity and challenge always like comes on the way when you start your own path, make your own path.
Yes.
So what was like most challenging, pointers where you were like, you got stuck and you were like, oh, bang on, I have to, overcome out of it?
Well, there were always technology issues because we kept pushing the envelope and trying different technology.
Great.
But I think the biggest challenge was getting faculty on board. It was a cultural shift. And think back to, 2001, a lot of people weren't really sure about online teaching.
Yeah.
And so in the early days, what I did is I hired instructional designers, and we focused on really making this a positive experience for faculty. So let's think about this from a marketing perspective. You assess your needs and you service those needs.
Correct.
And so from a marketing perspective, I had the right people to support the faculty. And every time I talked to a faculty member, I said, you focus on your content, and teaching will take the technology burden away from you.
Okay.
And so that's really how I began to really shift the culture. And a couple of years into it, people were coming to me, "I'm ready to try this, Cindy. Can you help me?"
Yeah. And it was like something new learning.
Back then,
right?
yes.
Where you are actually pushing yourself which is not very comfortable zone. You have to be a little uncomfortable, learn a little more, and then get into. So the moment you have faculty, you have like people to teach. Now, how did you manage to get student? Because that time I remember, like, I think everyone was more focusing on going physically class rather than, adapting online learning.
Right.
So how was that kind of?
So we started with summer schools, saying for students that wanted to go home for the summer and wanted to catch up or jump ahead, we started way back then trying that. But then over time, I created online programs for working adults that couldn't get to a classroom. And that really is the core group for online learning. Since the pandemic, things have shifted. I think we have now entered an era where learning is expected to be online, on campus, or hybrid. And really, if you think about it, even your on-campus courses are hybrid because there's so much interjection of technology.
Yeah.
And so nowadays, I think it's far more likely that individuals will take some classes online, some classes hybrid, and some classes in the classroom. So I think we're seeing a huge shift over time, and I've been watching the shifts for years.
Yeah, must be. It must be like different, seeing how it was, where I was working, and what gonna be like a future.
Yeah.
So you are like a witness of all the 3 stages, right?
Yes.
So I would like to ask about now when you were like learning all the tech phase and everything, how you saw the response of women? If I talk about like women perspective,
Mhm.
did you see their comfort zone where like they were okay, or you had to push them? No, they are all gents now. There has to be some ladies also fit in the space. So did you come up like those kind of situation, and how was the response of them?
So what I did find on the instructional design side, there were a number of women who might have been interested in teaching and then learn the technology and shift it. So I found that there were a number of women who were technology skilled, but that they were comfortable in this space, and they did well because they were very good at teaching teachers how to teach with technology.
Mm-hmm.
So some of them were teachers, some of them, they really had an education focus.
Mm-hmm.
The technology was there to supplement it. So I think because they were merging technology and education, I think women were a little more likely to get into this field than some other technology fields.
Okay.
So I think that we did pretty well too of getting faculty more comfortable with the technology. And one thing that I do now with my team is we've run lots of training sessions over the years,
Mm-hmm.
and that we try and make it comfortable for faculty and break it down. And so what you want to do is you want to model good teaching and training
Mm-hmm.
to the people who are teachers.
Yeah,
So they're constantly learning.
correct. And in which moment you felt now this model is really working on, where like we as a campus we are able to generate the money, and the concept and hybrid model people are liking it. Student, faculty, they are like comfortable where I can focus now on the other thing. In which moment like you felt?
Well, it's really interesting. During the pandemic, the summer of 2020,
Mm-hmm.
it was decided that we would move from our Blackboard learning management system to our Canvas management system.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that entire change in, I'd say, less than 12 weeks, which is pretty unheard of. To do a major shift. And so during that summer, we ran 50 workshops.
Uh-huh.
We trained over 400 faculty members. And by the end of the summer, people were pretty nervous about this shift because it's a big change.
Yeah.
And I probably had some faculty that weren't really happy about the speed at which we were moving. But after that summer, I've had a number of faculty members saying, I wasn't really happy that summer, being introduced to this new technology right before the fall, but I'm really glad we did it. And sometimes the technology helps facilitate cultural change. And I think what we heard from faculty and students that fall is the students really liked the new platform.
Mm-hmm.
They felt that faculty were using it well, and that faculty really liked it much better than the previous tool.
Okay.
So that was a real change. That was a real changing point.
Okay. And what are the major platform you are using for online learning?
So predominantly Canvas. So we are using Canvas.
Okay. And so you are not focusing like more on a Zoom, Teams, like on those.
Those are all integrated. So we could basically have a major infrastructure platform, but we can tie in Zoom. We can tie in Microsoft Teams. We could tie in publisher content material. And so we can plug in other types of technologies within this core platform.
Okay. Now let's talk about your work. What is the most interesting part of your job, which you like the most?
I think the thing that I like the most on the digital learning side is trying some new things and then seeing that they actually help learning. I think that's the real plus. When we work with faculty members and they come back and say, oh, I tried that, it worked really well. Or I've had faculty say, I'm really glad you introduced me to that and helped me with that because now it's working well for me. So that to me is key satisfaction that a faculty member said it helped them help their students learn in the classroom.
And you are able to come up with like new initiative, new opportunities like for people where they are seeing their potential and pushing themselves.
Yes.
Okay, amazing. What are the challenges now? Like on the other hand, if the likeness and the challenge will also be there. So what are the most challenging part right now you're facing?
I think the biggest change is AI. It's changing the way we teach and the way we think about teaching.
Absolutely.
And I think the one thing I would say to anybody in this field is you can't fight technology with technology.
Mm-hmm.
We need to better incorporate AI into our teaching and learning models so that when our students leave, they know how to use AI effectively, ethically, and efficiently.
So if I ask like, are you comfortable with AI, more tech, those kind of things? Now while having a discussion, you hear like such a heavy jargons, like heavy words where you are not even able to understand what does mean that. Like a lot of time, like student come up with like, okay, what they're talking about. So I mean, as a woman, like I have seen like more why I'm dragging the attention more on a women's side of it, because I really want to understand their perspective. And you have been handling girls, ladies, left, right, center, I believe, right? So you know their perspective as well. So if I talk about AI, ML is like two most important thing which everyone is talking about, right? But if you actually ask them what do you understand? So how's the response on that front?
I think the response on that front is everybody's saying, how do I now teach with AI? How can I, some people have said, how can I stop and make sure that maybe this assignment doesn't include AI? How do I teach with AI? And I think that's the common question that we're hearing. And the response I give is good assessment. Think about your assessment. And one thing I do in my class, I teach marketing, is I tell students they can use AI, but they need to cite it, just like they would any other type of web-based article. And so the reason I want them to cite it is not only because I want them to highlight that they used information, I want them to then verify it to say, is it true? Because just because it's AI or just because it's on a website doesn't mean it's right. And I think that is a key thing, is how can we get students to start using it, not to just copy and paste, but to actually evaluate it. And that's the critical thinking part.
And I think it's also very important to understand how AI and ML helping in our daily basis, like day-to-day life.
Yes.
How it's helping us. And then accept the fact we are progressing on that side.
Right.
We don't have any other choice, or like we have to learn it or just sit back.
Right.
Or if you're going to be like behind, right? So whenever I go anywhere, pick up any industry, you will be like, okay, tech, AI, ML. I'm like, wow, okay, whoever is not from that background, like mechanical or computer science, and there are like certain technical background as well. But on the other hand, there are certain which is marketing, which is media,
right,
which is like absolutely nothing related to this. But these people also need to focus too much on tech world. So my question is, how these people, because whenever anybody talks, they use such a heavy jargon, such a heavy those words, which makes people scared. Oh my God, what they're talking about. It just, I'm not able to understand, right? Then how they need to take interest first, get involved, and then understand. So these are the pointers where like the person who's like hearing or seeing from outside, they are like, okay, so what should be the step for them, how they should get into first?
So I think it's important to understand that, machine learning is really an instance of taking large data sets and then really learning the information over time and aggregating it in a way so that it really has more of a human-like response. And I think there's some value to AI in daily work. So I had to do a project and write an outline for somebody, and I thought, it wasn't even just an outline. It was like a couple page paper, and I thought, I need some ideas to get started. So I asked a bunch of questions to Chat GPT to give me some outline ideas, and I was like, wow. So some of it's idea generation. Okay, where do I want to start? And then from there, I took it, and what would have maybe taken me 4 hours, I did in less than 2. So it's how can we use it to be more efficient? It's also important that it's asking the right questions. So in the future, let's think of it this way. Are we going to need to learn how to write from scratch? Or are we going to have to know how to edit really, really well and ask the right questions in order to understand something?
Correct.
So it may not be, in my day, we had to diagram sentences and learn the basics of writing. Well, maybe in the future, it's not so much the basics of writing, but it's the basics of good editing and understanding. And these AI ML models only work well if you ask the right questions. Because sometimes asking a question doesn't mean you're getting the right answer. So you have to go back, see what the answers are, and then do more research to validate whether or not the information is correct. So a lot of it is testing and asking questions to see what the results are.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, pretty much they should first, see it, try a little from the little, and then understand the background of it. Perfect. It was really good. Of inside of AI ML was really nice talk. Now let's, what advice you would like to give to students who are listening to you right now?
I would say for students that are listening to me right now, and since it is Women's Month, for young women, push yourself out of your comfort zone. I always felt that if I push myself out of my comfort zone, I could move different levels in terms of my career. And so, being comfortable and doing things the same way doesn't necessarily move you forward. Constantly push yourself to try new things, and it's okay to fail. I find that I learn more from failures than successes. And so at the end of the day, try things, test it, and push yourself out of your comfort zone to get better and better.
Since we bring up this point, the failure, right? Success and failure is something which inspire me a lot, especially failure, because failure is something I think you learn out of it. You learn something and then you work more harder so that you should not fail again. Right. So would you like to share some sort of your story, the failure where you felt something which is not that good, and then you came out something with that hard work and everything, and then out of success story. So would you like to share some sort?
Sure. So I was working in the early 2000s on this, mid 2000s on this online program, and it was a degree completion program, and we had to get all these core courses, and it just didn't work really well. And it didn't work really well because we had people at different stages. So it wasn't successful, but I did it a few years later. And what I learned was I worked with a faculty member, and we came up with this model for core courses in order to make it more streamlined for students. And then it became very successful as a result, because I had learned what the real bottleneck was as to why it didn't work the first time.
Mhm.
So the second time I was able to launch something that made it very successful. So it was like a product redesign.
Oh, wow. I mean, like, then I'm pretty much sure, like, after that failure and the moment you get the success, that give you a different kind of confidence, right?
Yep.
And whenever you experience that, you feel like, okay, now I can fail again. And I think sometimes we need to allow ourselves to get fail and be okay with that.
Yes.
And sometimes it's not to be okay. I mean, like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
something that's all. So this podcast has two rounds, okay? Where like one is we do a little conversation, and another one is like one rapid fire round. In this round, I'm gonna give one word to you, where whatever comes in your head,
Okay.
you have to think about and just come out like with one word. Say rapid
Sure.
fire,
Okay, I'll try.
Okay. So success,
Excitement.
women,
Confidence.
empowerment,
I would say achievement.
money,
Comfort.
learning.
Education.
Okay. Opportunity,
Career goals.
Lead-
Career, I should say. Yeah. Goals.
leadership,
Modeling.
culture,
Change.
passion,
Empowerment.
social,
Engagement.
community.
Friendship.
Cindy,
Wow. Enthusiasm.
okay.
That's a tough one.
That's okay. Outreach,
Outreach. I'm trying to think of the right word, but group.
University of New Haven.
Achievement.
Oh wow. Okay. With this, we are finishing our rapid fire round.
Okay.
And now, like, let's whoever is listening this podcast, you have already addressed to women, but this time, like, let's like community and what you would like to share or say things to them all together on behalf of university and about.
All right. On behalf of the University of New Haven, I'm Cindy Gallatin, and I think I would like to tell women to keep powering on.
Yeah.
And really try new things and push the envelope and push yourself to be the best you can. It's part of continuous improvement, and it's part of your continuous career achievements. So I wish you all the best.
Yeah. And with this, like, we wish you a very happy Women's Day. And I feel like let's support each other. This 2024, let's empower women more. So power on with this. Sayonara. And next time we'll meet you with next guest. Thank you. Bye.